Aloha kako. This video will be looking at our ʻIae sentence pattern. So before we get into it, let's briefly review the three types of painu that we have in Hawaiian. So we have the hehele, and the hehele is the intransitive verb. So things that can be fully completed by whoever or whatever is doing them. In our regular pepeke painu, we have the ʻAkena, the one that's doing the action in the piko, and then all of the ʻAwe, if we have them, are going to be location type phrases, or henua. So when we use this in our hiki sentence pattern, we use the hiki ʻi or hiki ʻia version, the ʻIkaia version. Then we have a hamani. Hamani are transitive verbs. The piko is in a regular pepeke painu is going to be the ʻAkena again, the one that's doing the action. And this time, if we have an ʻAwe, the first one is usually the ʻOkena, or whatever is receiving the action, because hamani verbs, transitive verbs, transfer the action and affect something else. So usually if we'll have an ʻAwe, the first one will more than likely be the ʻOkena. And then any other ʻAwe after that are going to be location phrases or henua. So this, when we make a regular pepeke painu, this is what we call the ʻIkaia when we use a hamani in the regular pepeke painu. So we have to use the ʻIkaia version when we use hiki. So hiki ʻi or hiki ʻia. The third type of painu that we have is an ʻaʻano, or a stative verb. So these are like description words. So in the piko of a regular pepeke painu, the piko is going to be the ʻOkena, the thing that is being described. And then the ʻAwe, if we have them, the first one is usually the ʻAkena, or who is causing that description. And then anything after that is going to be a location type phrase or a henua. So when we create our regular pepeke painu using an ʻaʻano, we call it the hia'o. So we have to keep that in mind when we want to use hiki. We got to use the hia'o version of hiki, which is hiki ke. So for this particular sentence pattern, we need to remember the use of our prefix ho'o. And we'll get into the reason why. So just as a quick review, we have four versions. We have ho, which attaches to words that begin with an okina and a kahako. We have ho, which attaches to words that begin with an okina but no kahako. We have the ho, which is the ho okina and then a kahako if need be. And this is the prefix we use for words that begin with a, e, or o. And then again, if there's a kahako over the first vowel, then we don't need to put one. But if no more, we gotta put. And then we have ho'o. And ho'o attaches to words that begin with any other consonant other than an okina, as well as words that begin with e or o. So we have to keep this in mind because of especially with this sentence pattern, with the ʻIae. So while ho'o is used to make a hamani, ʻia is used to make an ʻaʻano. So ʻia is a type of hune. It's more of a grammatical type word. There's really no translation for this particular word in English. It has a grammar function. So we place ʻia after a hamani or a hehele. It doesn't get placed after an ʻaʻano. So that's why if you want to use an ʻaʻano but with an ʻia, you got to make it a hamani first. So when we use this, when we attach ʻia to a hamani or a hehele, it's going to then follow the rules and the structure of a hia'o, like if we were to use a regular ʻaʻano. So for the hia'o, in the po'o, we have an ʻaʻano, but in the ʻIae, we're going to have a hamani plus ʻia or a hehele plus ʻia. In the piko, you see how we're still going to have the ʻOkena, in the hia'o, as well as the hamani. The hehele is a little bit different, yeah, because the hehele doesn't have an okena. You're gonna put the location phrase that's being affected. Okay, and I know that can sound really confusing, so for now we're really just gonna focus on using a hamani with ʻIae. Yeah, but I'm gonna give you what the hehele looks like too. Okay, so you see how we have the okena in the piko, and then in our ʻAe for the hia'o, yeah, the ʻAkena gets marked by either ʻI or ya. In the ʻIae, the ʻAkena gets marked by ʻe. Yeah, so that's part of the reasoning on why this is called the ʻIae, because you have to use ʻia, yeah, to make the hamani and a'ano, and then you have to use ʻe to mark the ʻAkena, so the ʻIae. Okay, so this is sometimes gets equated to what we call the passive voice in English. Yeah, so basically what that means is the subject of the English sentence is receiving the action instead of being the one to do the action. Okay, so for example, if we have this photo and we say the cat bites the dog. Yeah, so the cat is the subject and the subject is the one that's doing the action, yeah, doing the biting. Versus in the passive voice, yeah, the cat is bit by the dog. Yeah, the subject is still the cat, but now it's receiving the bite instead of giving the bite. Okay, so that's what the passive is in English, and that's basically what happens in Hawaiian as well. Yeah, this first picture with the orange text, the cat is the ʻAkena, yeah, the piko is the ʻAkena, versus the picture on the right with the purple text box, the cat is the ʻOkena, yeah, in the piko. So it's different from the past tense. Yeah, past tense is a timing thing. Yeah, it doesn't change anything in terms of the sentence structure and the ordering and what's the ʻAkena, what's the ʻOkena. Yeah, whatever was in the piko and the ʻAwe are going to stay there and they're going to have the same function. All we do is add ua to the beginning to indicate the timing that it happened in the past. With this passive, yeah, even though we can use ua with it, yeah, we can use our makapainu with it. Yeah, it's not only something that can happen in the past. Yeah, for this one, for the passive, yeah, for the ʻIae, the ʻOkena has to be in the piko. It cannot be in the ʻAwe, and the ʻAkena has to be in the ʻAwe. It cannot be in a piko. Okay, so you see it with past tense, you have the ability to just change the when something happened. Yeah, the passive, you can, but there's added layers to it. So let's look at some examples. So let's say we had this past tense sentence. The cat bit the dog. Okay, so bit is the past tense form of bite. So ua nahu, and then the cat is the ʻAkena, yeah, the one doing that action. So it goes in the piko, kapo poki. And then what's receiving the action, yeah, is the ʻOkena, goes in the ʻAwe, ʻIkaʻi lio. But we can make it passive, and then we say the cat was bit by the dog. So we still have a past tense here, yeah, was. But now the subject, yeah, the piko, is receiving the action. Yeah, so ua nahu ʻia. Yeah, bitten or was bit, and what was bit, kapo poki, the ʻAwe e kaʻi lio. So even though the cat and the dog stayed in the same sections of our pepeke, their function changed. In the past tense, the piko is the ʻAkena for this example. Yeah, whereas in the ʻIae, the piko is the ʻOkena. Yeah, in the past tense, the ʻAwe is the ʻOkena. In the passive, the ʻAwe is the ʻAkena. Okay, so that's the biggest difference. You can think too of this ʻIae as kind of like the middle child. It's the halfway between an ʻIkaiā and a hia'o. Yeah, because we use a hamani from the ʻIkaiā, so the hamani is going to stay the same, but the structure is going to follow the hia'o. So it has a bit of both. Okay, so if we have this, yeah, for the ʻIae, our po'o is the hamani, the piko is the ʻAkena, and our ave is the ʻōkena marked by either I or Ya. The hia'o is an a'ano in the po'o, the ʻōkena in the piko, and the ave is the ʻAkena marked by either I or Ya. Now if you look at the ʻIae has the same hamani, you just add ia, but the ʻōkena is in the piko and the ʻAkena is in the ave. The difference being that the ʻAkena gets marked by a. So let's look at some examples. Okay, so I reserved the table at the restaurant. The ʻAkena is I. The ʻōkena is the table. We have a location phrase, that restaurant. So the ʻIae, with the hamani, ua ho'opa'au I ke pākaukau ma ke la hale aina. Okay, hamani, and then the ʻAkena, and then the ʻōkena. The hia'o, we have to start with an a'ano, ua pa'a, and then what was pa'a? Ke pākaukau, the ʻōkena. Then the ʻAkena, ia'u, and our henua, ma ke la hale aina. So if we make this an ʻIae, remember we got to use the same hamani from the ʻIae, add ia, and then we're following the structure of the hia'o. So ua ho'opa'a ia ke pākaukau ea'u ma ke la hale aina. Same hamani, same verb that's used in the ʻIae, but we add ia, and then the structure, the rest of the sentence follows the hia'o. Only difference is we marked the ʻAkena with a instead of I or Ya. Her boss will reduce the price of the firecracker. So the ʻAkena is her boss. The ʻōkena, the price of the firecracker. There's no location phrases in here. Okay. So our ʻIae e ho'emi kona luna I ke kumuku ai o ke pahu. Emi, remember, is an a'ano, so we had to add ho'o, or a version of ho'o, in front to make it a hamani. The hia'o, then we can use emi, and we get emi ke kumuku ai o ke pahu I kona luna. Okay. If we make this an ʻIae, we're going to use the same painu, so ho'emi, from the ʻIae, add ia, and then follow the rest of the structure from the sentence of the hia'o. So we get e ho'emi ia ke kumuku ai o ke pahu e kona luna. So the e marks the ʻAkena in the ʻIae. Ikaika folks are finishing this assignment at home. So our ʻAkena is ikaika folks. The ʻōkena, this assignment. The hinua, at home. So the ʻIae with the hamani would be ke ho'opau nei o ikaika ma I keia ha'awina makahale. Okay. If we want the hia'o, using an a'ano, ke pau nei keia ha'awina ya ikaika ma makahale. Okay. So we can again make this an ʻIae, but we have to use the same painu from the ʻIae. So it's ho'opau, add ia, and then follow the same structure as the hia'o. Ke ho'opau ia nei keia ha'awina e ikaika ma makahale. Okay. Notice the ordering here. The ia is always right next to the painu. So with our maka painu ke nei comes after it. If we had e ana would come after it. Ia is always right after the painu. So that was our newest type of pepeke painu, the ʻIae, using the ia to make a hamani or a hehele an a'ano first, and then following basically the structure of the hia'o. So this was our newest sentence pattern, the ʻIae.